दर्श्या ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः।
श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकथामयं
ददाति
स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं
वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं साद्वैतं स्वावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगद्गते गोपीशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते नमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरे
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Ashwin, for the wonderful Mangalacharan. Hare Krishna, all the devotees. Thank you for joining in this Zoom class. Today we are very fortunate to have with us Shyamamand Krishna Das BG, all the way from South Africa. Prabhuji, please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of devotees from ISKCON and all over the world. We are offering our Dandavat Pranam to you, Prabhuji. Today, the topic for discussion is Damodar Leela and also text 41. So, Prabhuji, how do we do it? Should we start with the text or Damodar Leela?
Mataji, since you're me, I'm your servant. Do you want to start with the Bhagavad Gita verse, or would you like to start with Damodar Leela? You tell me.
I think the Bhagavad Gita should be good, yeah?
Okay, start with Bhagavad Gita and then do Damodar Leela, yeah?
Okay, so let's start with text 41. So you lead and we follow, Prabhuji.
Okay. So, Om Jnana Timinandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunam Militam Vena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitang Jaina Bhutale Sayang Rupa Kadamayang Dati Swapatantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhana Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much for inviting me, Manisiganga. Thank you to all the devotees for joining. It gives me great pleasure to share some things with you about text 441 from Bhagavad Gita, and also we'll discuss Damodar Leela a little. Yesterday we were discussing 440. Actually, these verses at the end of the 4th chapter are a summary of transcendental knowledge. Krishna is summarizing the things he said in the 4th chapter, because transcendental knowledge is a very important thing. So Krishna is good public speaker. Krishna is best public speaker. So they say in public speaking, you should say what you're going to say. You should say it, then you should say what you've said. It's good public speaking to repeat things 3 times, because that way people remember. So Krishna is summarizing the things he said in 4th chapter, beginning with the verse 34 and going to the end of the chapter. So we're almost at the end of the chapter. So Krishna's words are concluding and very important, actually. In one sense, one might be forgiven for thinking Bhagavad Gita is over after the 4th chapter, because Krishna is giving very concluding words, actually. He tells Arjuna, just, okay, get up with determination and fight, armed with yoga. So these verses are very conclusive. They're coming at the end of the chapter. So we'll do the Sanskrit together. I say, you say. Yoga sanyasta karmanam.
Yoga sanyasta karmanam.
Jnana sanchina sankshayam.
Jnana sanchina
Atmantam karmani.
Atmavantam karmani.
Nibbadhanti dhananjaya.
Nibbadhanti dhananjaya.
So we do the word for word. Yoga.
Yoga.
By devotional service in karma yoga.
By devotional service in karma yoga.
Sanyasta.
Sanyasta.
One who has renounced.
One who has renounced.
Karmanam.
Karmanam.
Fruits of action.
The fruits of actions.
Jnana.
Jnana.
By knowledge.
By knowledge.
Sanchina.
Sanchina.
Cut. Sankshayam. Doubts. Atmavantam. Situated in the self.
Situated in the self.
Na. Never. Karmani. Works. Nibbadhanti. Do bind. Dhananjaya. Conqueror of riches.
O conqueror of riches.
This Dhananjaya is another name for Arjuna. Actually, Arjuna took 5 names in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna uses them in different ways. This is a very illustrious name for Dhananjaya, because the Rajasuriya sacrifice, which Maharaj Yudhisthira wanted to perform, Arjuna went and collected the wealth for that. So this is a name of Arjuna, meaning the one who can collect a lot of riches, Dhananjaya. So Prabhupada gives the following translation. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. He is not bound by the reactions of work, or conqueror of riches. So I can say, and you can repeat, one who acts in devotional service.
One who acts in devotional service.
Renouncing the fruits of his actions.
Renouncing the fruits of his actions. And whose doubts have been destroyed.
By transcendental knowledge.
By transcendental knowledge.
Is situated factually in the self.
Is situated factually in the self.
Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work.
Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work.
Oh, conqueror of riches.
O conqueror of
Conqueror
riches.
of riches.
So it's a short purport, but still there's an awful lot one can say about this verse, even though it's a short purport. This is the purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who follows the instruction of Bhagavad Gita as it is, imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as part and parcel of the Lord, in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above the bondage of action. So we take a look at the verse first, and we see how this connects with what we were discussing previously. Because this, as I said, is a concluding verse. Actually, it's like Krishna who is establishing the conclusion of what he said up to this point. One who acts in devotional service. Because actually the discussion in Bhagavad Gita up to this point hasn't really got directly into devotional service. It's been touched on, but we haven't really. So therefore, you'll notice that Prabhupada in the word for word says, by devotional service in karma yoga. Because mostly up to this point, we're discussing karma yoga, nishkam karma and sakam karma yoga. That's what we're discussing, renouncing the fruits of action. But the hint of devotional service is given here. Because eventually, if one performs karma yoga properly, it will become devotional service. This is the real conclusion of what Krishna is talking about, actually. But strictly speaking, if you look in the Sanskrit, there's no mention of bhakti, actually. So yoga sanyasta, Krishna is saying, actually. No? Karmanam. So karmanam means activity. But the thing is, when activity is directed properly, then it actually becomes devotional service. Because work is not meant for our enjoyment, actually. Most people are thinking like that. Most people are thinking the work that I'm performing, I'm doing it because I want to get some result. That is called fruitive action. You want to enjoy the fruit. Just like when we plant, if you plant a mango seed, I don't know if you know, but the tree has to grow for about 5 years before you get any mangoes. You have to look after that because it becomes small in the beginning. You have to look after that tree. You make sure that the weeds don't grow. You make sure it gets enough water. And after 5 years, you'll get the fruit. It actually begins to produce mangoes after 5 years. So similarly, this is the activity we perform. We do something. We carefully engage in some activity because we want to enjoy the fruit. But Krishna is pointing out to us in Bhagavad Gita that is fruitive action. And it brings one to this material world. But at the same time, that work has to be performed. If we cast our mind back to the 3rd chapter, Krishna actually said that. He gave 4 reasons why everybody has to work. First of all, he said, you're impelled, you're forced to work. Krishna actually says no one can stop doing work even for a moment. Kshamam, he says, actually, the blink of an eye. No one can do and cannot do work even for the blink of an eye. So everyone has to work. This is the first reason. The second reason Krishna gives in that 3rd chapter at the beginning is you have to maintain the body. Without work, you can't maintain the body. And then also the 3rd reason he says is work done for Vishnu has to be performed as a sacrifice. Otherwise, the work binds one to this material world. And then last, towards the end of the chapter, he tells Arjuna, you have to work to set the proper example for others. So everybody has to work. The work in itself is not bad. There's nothing wrong with work. In fact, Krishna here is saying, that we have to work. We have to work. It's better than trying to renounce work. You can renounce work if you're qualified, but most of us are not qualified. Therefore, Krishna says in 3rd chapter, it's better to stay in your position and try to give up the results of your work, to be detached, actually. That is what Krishna has been speaking about so much in these first 3 chapters, detached work. Because work is necessary. It's our duty. Actually, Krishna has arranged work for everybody so that we can come free from this material nature. That is how we do it. Krishna has prescribed different activities for different kinds of persons in the Veda. That activity is meant for sacrifice so that we can become purified of our contamination with the material world. So therefore, Krishna is saying here, a faithful man, this relates to the 2 previous verses actually that we were studying yesterday. The first of those verses, 39, is saying if you're faithful, if you're actually a faithful person, let's see where, if you're a faithful person who's dedicated to transcendental knowledge and subdues his senses, is eligible to receive such knowledge, transcendental knowledge. We have to separate that from ordinary knowledge. Transcendental knowledge means knowledge about Krishna, knowledge about ourself, our real self, the Jiva Atma, the knowledge of the relationship between ourselves and Krishna, the knowledge of this material nature, this Prakriti, what is this, and color. These are the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita. Color means time. So a faithful man, one who's faithfully trying to follow Krishna's instructions, or more broadly for us as aspiring devotees, also the path that Srila Prabhupada has chalked out for us. He's chalked out a very nice path, actually, that we can follow and we can eventually become pure devotees. So if we're faithful in following Krishna's instructions and following Prabhupada's instructions, and we're dedicated to transcendental knowledge, in other words, we make an effort to get transcendental knowledge by hearing from Krishna, hearing from our spiritual masters, hearing from Srila Prabhupada, hearing from other devotees. This is how we get knowledge, by approaching a bona fide spiritual master and inquiring submissively and rendering service. This is how we get the transcendental knowledge. So a faithful man is dedicated to transcendental knowledge, subdues his senses. Everyone has to perform sense control. If we don't, actually, then our senses will run us into a ditch. We'll wind up in serious trouble if we don't control our senses. So such a person is eligible to receive transcendental knowledge. And having achieved that transcendental knowledge, the proper relationship between us and Krishna, that's the sum and substance of it. The sum and substance of that is that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and we are his parts and parcels. Just like the little finger on my hand. It is part and parcel of my body. Let's say I have an accident, and this little finger gets removed from my body. What won't I do in order to get this little finger sewn back on the body again? We'll go through all kinds of difficult situations in order to get that little finger sewn back on the body, because it's part and parcel of us. So also we're part and parcel of Krishna, actually. So this transcendental knowledge is meant to teach us that. We cannot be anything without Krishna's help, actually. And we belong in close association and communion with Krishna. So this is the transcendental knowledge. And this material nature is Maya. Prabhupada saying in one of these purports, actually, Ma means not, and Ya means this. In other words, what we see here is not the reality. It is a temporary reality, which is brought about by our own mental concoctions. It's not real in the sense that it's not permanent. It's real, but it's temporary. We feel the pain, we feel the pleasure, but it's temporary. The things we know in this life won't apply in the next life. But there's a deeper reality that we are Krishna's part and parcel. And therefore, we need to be connected to Krishna in communion with the Supreme Lord. That is our constitutional position. That is where we belong. But unfortunately, because of the contamination of the material nature, we don't know that. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna are telling us so we can get the understanding. So if we actually act on that understanding, the transcendental knowledge we receive from Krishna and his emissaries, then we can come to that platform of transcendental knowledge. Because here the discussion is about applying knowledge to our work. Because our work is inert. It is like a scalpel. It can either do good or it can do evil. It depends on the practitioner. It depends on the person who's doing the work. So similarly, the work we perform can be used as a way of binding us further to the material nature, or it can be used as a way to release us from the material nature. So with transcendental knowledge, we can do that. We can understand how to do that. That is what Krishna is telling us. But then Krishna talks about those who are faithless. Actually, 3 kinds of persons: those who have no knowledge, those who are faithless, and those who have doubts. They can't achieve transcendental knowledge because they don't have any faith. They're either ignorant, they don't know, or they don't have faith in the scripture, or they have doubts that, well, maybe this process won't work for me. No, I accept it, but it may not work for me like that. So those kinds of persons actually can't attain transcendental knowledge. We require faith. So yesterday we were discussing that, the importance of faith in our lives as practicing devotees, how important faith is. And we also discussed how we can increase our faith. We discussed that at some length. Now we come to this verse today, because if we have that knowledge, if we have that transcendental knowledge, how work is meant to be used, that we're faced with 3 kinds of work. We're faced with karma, vikarma, and akarma. So vikarma should be avoided by any sane man or woman. That is work which is forbidden by the scripture. Why it's forbidden? Because it will degrade you. Your birth will become degraded if you engage in that kind of work. Then there's karma. Karma means it's sanctioned by the Veda, but unfortunately it has reactions in the material world. So that most people pursue that in an attempt to get religious sense gratification. But it binds, it has consequences. So Krishna is saying we should perform akarma, detached work, or better still, when detached work becomes mature, it becomes devotional service, actually. That we understand on Krishna's part and parcel. Just like this hand here, which I've put on the screen now, this hand can cooperate with my body. It can put the food in the mouth, and by chewing and swallowing, it goes into the stomach and the whole body is benefited. Or this hand can say, you know what? I'm not going to put the food in the mouth anymore. I'm going to enjoy it. So the hand squishes the food like that. Will the hand get the benefit of the food? It won't get, actually. No matter how much the hand squishes the food trying to enjoy it, it will never get the benefit. It has to be put in the mouth, chewed, swallowed, and the stomach digested, and the whole body then gets the benefit. So we have to learn to act like that. With Krishna's part and parcel, we have a certain kind of way of acting, which will bring us closer to Krishna and will help us to enjoy. We're actually meant for Krishna's enjoyment. And when we surrender that to that, we enjoy unlimitedly. So this is the transcendental knowledge which Krishna is describing. One who acts in devotional service. So when we get that transcendental knowledge, actually we learn that we should become Krishna's servant. Actually, we're already servant. Everyone in this material world is servant. The wife is serving the husband is serving the wife. The children are serving the parents are serving the children. Even if you go right up to the president or the king or the queen, they're serving the people. Every single person is serving. Why is that? That is because of our constitutional nature. We're meant to be servant, but because we don't want to serve Krishna, we have to serve all kinds of people that we don't even like in some cases. We have to serve them because it's our nature to serve. So when we get the transcendental knowledge, we learn actually that we're meant to serve Lord Krishna, just in the same way that the hand serves the body by putting the food in the mouth. Similarly, we have to serve. Then we get the benefit. And similarly, if we serve Lord Krishna, we get the benefit. We enjoy unlimited, actually. Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam, it's described. It's described like that because it's an ever-increasing ocean of bliss. But the trouble with the pleasure in this material world is it diminishes as soon as you begin to taste it. So this is what Krishna is saying. If we have this transcendental knowledge, and our doubts have been destroyed, then we'll engage in devotional service. And then we're actually situated in the self, Krishna is saying, factually. Because what is the self, really? Actually, it's not. This body, for instance, you're looking at on Zoom today is an English body. That's why it's a different color from some of the other bodies. It's an English body. It's 63 years old. And it thinks that, it thinks I'm a white man. This is the body. But it's not who I am. It's not really myself. Myself, actually, is the thing which is animating the body. It is the spirit soul within the body. When the spirit soul leaves this body, will become, as the Christians say in their burial ceremony, they say ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The Vedic culture is a bit more descriptive. It said this body will become food for worms or jackals, or it will be burnt and it will go to the earth. This is what will happen to this body. So it's not the real self. So Krishna is saying he is situated factually in the self, in the words that we understand who we are. I'm eternal spirit soul. I'm Krishna's servant. I'm pleasure-seeking by nature. What am I meant to do? I'm meant to serve Lord Krishna, actually. And one who thinks like this, actually, one who understands this and acts on this platform is not bound. You see, Arjuna's work is very scary when we think about that. Arjuna's work, actually, was to kill people on the battlefield. And even more than that, actually, in this case, to kill family members. You may remember back in the second chapter, Krishna was asked by Arjuna, you take my chariot and you place it between the two armies so I can see those who have come to fight. And then Arjuna looked into the battlefield and he said there were fathers, grandfathers, maternal uncles, well-wishers, friends, sons, so many classes of family members. And his work actually was to kill them. That was his work. Actually, Krishna wanted to use him to remove the burden of the earth. So this was Arjuna's duty. And Krishna is imparting to him, if you do this duty, it's your duty anyway, to fight with those who want to destroy Dharma. And also, I want you to fight this battle because I want to remove the burden of the earth. So Arjuna is thinking, I will have to live in hell for thousands of lifetimes because of the sin of killing my family members and destroying the family dynasty and creating sinful activity by fighting with superiors And anyway, I won't enjoy if I fight this battle. These are the things Arjuna was saying. But Krishna is saying here, if you act on the platform of transcendental knowledge, who you are, Krishna is saying who I am and what's our relationship. And I've got a job I want to get done here. Later on in 11th chapter, Krishna is showing Arjuna, I've already destroyed these soldiers on the battlefield. So the job is already done. You've just got to become my instrument. So similarly, we have to become Krishna's instruments, actually. And how we do that is that we dovetail our propensities in Krishna's service. Because we have to work, we can't avoid it. So we have to learn to work in a detached spirit. There's a verse in the 2nd chapter where Krishna is saying, first of all, you have a right to perform your duty. It's 247, the 2nd chapter. 247, Krishna says you have a right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Because duty is Krishna's way of getting you out of the material world. But we're not the cause of the results of our activities. Krishna as the overseer and the demigods do that. Sometimes we get results we don't even want by performance of our duty. And we shouldn't be lazy, because if we're lazy, we won't make spiritual advancement. So these are the things that Krishna is telling. When we get this transcendental knowledge, then we don't become bound. The work becomes a way of liberating ourselves. Bhagavatam gives a very nice example like this. I don't know if it happens to you, but generally among the devotees, when we serve the Panibhata Masala, the devotees want more. Isn't it? I don't know if it works like that for you where you come from. But generally, if you serve the Panibhata Masala, then that broadly speaking, that's curd in a very nice tomato chutney like that. The devotees always want more. It's the first preparation to run out if you're serving the feast, if they're serving Panibhata Masala. So actually, if you overindulge in the cheese, actually you'll get stomachache. But then another milk product, yogurt, if that's taken, actually quietens the stomach. So similarly, this is the situation we're in. If we engage in our work with the wrong mentality, it'll make us sick. We'll become more materially entangled. But that same work, which is offered to Krishna, or at least that we renounce the fruits of action, that work becomes a source of liberation. So this is what Krishna is telling here. So Krishna, therefore, Prabhupada is pointing out in the purport, one who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada makes that point. Why? Because there are so many Bhagavad Gitas out there where the commentators are not giving Bhagavad Gita as it is. They're giving their own concoctions and their own ideas. So we have to follow the instructions of Krishna as they are. We can't interpret. Krishna is the only source of religious knowledge, and we cannot interpret. We simply have to orally, submissively hear, accept that knowledge as Krishna is giving it. So one who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita as it is imparted by the Lord, and then Prabhupada is making the point, so we understand the personality of Godhead himself. Krishna is not a historical personality, some great demigod or a great man. No, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Otherwise, how can he say, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matasavam Pravartate? How can he say, I'm the source of all the spiritual material worlds, everything emanates from me? Krishna is the supreme Lord, and Arjuna accepts that. He says, you're telling me now, and all the great sages are agreeing. So now we're going to accept that. You're actually the supreme Lord. So it becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. Now, why he says grace? Because that transcendental knowledge is coming from Lord Krishna, actually. Krishna in 15th chapter is saying that, actually. He says that knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come from me. So whatever we know actually is revealed by Krishna's grace. So this transcendental knowledge is grace. We may hear it, but it may bounce off us. Sometimes it's like that. The knowledge comes, but it bounces off. But by Krishna's grace, actually, we can understand that, because Krishna is saying knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come from me. This knowledge actually is revealed. You can't get this book, you can't get this knowledge by just studying it. It has to be revealed. And it's revealed by Krishna in the heart on the basis of our sincerity in devotional service. So this why Prabhupada is saying here, by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord, in full consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. In full consciousness. That is why Srila Prabhupada has called this movement the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because that Krishna consciousness is very much needed by us. At the moment, our consciousness of Krishna is very slight. But the more we become conscious of Krishna, the more we become connected to him, the more we become established in our constitutional position, we become free of material miseries. Krishna was saying that in these concluding verses, that if we have this transcendental knowledge, actually become free of these material miseries, become free of the binding effects of our previous sinful reactions. These things are all burned to ashes by transcendental knowledge. So transcendental knowledge is the most amazing thing, because it enables us to become devotees of Lord Krishna, which is actually the sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita. The sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, surrender to me. Give up your dharma, whatever it is. I don't care what your dharma is. Whatever your dharma is, give it up and surrender to me. So this is very similar, what Krishna is saying in this verse. And you'll see in the next verse tomorrow, when the class giver, that Krishna is telling Arjuna, okay, now you just get on with it. Now I've explained everything you need to know. You work in a renounced spirit, you offer the results to me in devotional service, and the sinful reactions won't touch you. There won't be any sinful reactions. Okay, Arjuna, have you got it now? So let's get on with this battle now. Why don't you get up and with determination come and fight? So this is the sum and substance of this, these concluding verses of this fourth chapter, a summary of transcendental knowledge. So I hope that you all feel excited to accrue as much transcendental knowledge as you can. Actually, how do we get that transcendental knowledge? By at least making some endeavor. If we make the endeavor, Krishna will reveal to us. We hear and study Bhagavad Gita. We listen to our spiritual masters and senior devotees. No? And gradually we chant the holy name of the Lord. We take prasadam, foodstuffs offered to Krishna. We associate with devotees favorably. If we do all these things, actually, Krishna will reveal to you in the heart this knowledge. And more, we'll become separated from this material nature and we'll be established in our true position. Anyway, I've used up 3/4 of the time now, or 2/3 rather. So I want to say some things about Damodar Astaka and the Damodar month, the Kartik month in which we find ourselves. Kartika, do all the devotees know the basic story? Would that be a reasonable assumption on my part? You're muted at the moment. I can't hear what you're saying.
Yes, I think everybody should know the story.
Everybody knows the basic story. Okay. So we can delve a little more. You see, Kartik month is very important, actually. You see, a good businessman, for instance, anyone who's in business knows this. Let's say you're selling certain items, you know. If somebody comes to you and says, look, I want to buy one of your items, you offer it at the most expensive price. But if somebody wants to come and buy 10 items, in order to encourage them, you may offer a discount. It won't be the same as if you're buying one item. And if you buy 100 items, you'll get even more discount. So Krishna is also doing this with us in our spiritual lives. Krishna is offering special knockdown prices in order to buy our spiritual advancement. So Kartik, the month of Kartik is one of those, that any spiritual activity which is performed in Kartik is multiplied by 1,000. So sometimes when we go to the houses of our devotees and people who are interested in Krishna consciousness, we tell them that. We tell them, look, you just offer one ghee lamp to Sri Damodar on this evening, and it's the same, I'll tell them, as offering a lamp for 3 years. You know? And the people are shocked, they're surprised, you know, how much advancement you can make. So in this month, actually, we should try, don't take something away, actually. A lot of people say you should fast, just eat fruits, these kinds of things. But I would recommend actually add something. Whatever rounds you're chanting, add 1 or 2 to it. If you chant 16, that's great, that's wonderful. But you know, 16 is the minimum. When we get initiated, the spiritual master, so how many rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra will you chant every day? And we say, Guru Maharaj, I'll chant 16, minimum. Because actually we're supposed to be Kirtanya Sada Hari, we're supposed to chant the holy name all the time. So why not add something to your devotional practice? If you're chanting 16, chant a couple more. If you're chanting 1, chant 2. Whatever you're doing, add something to it. Try reading for, take a vow that I read for 15 minutes a day during Kartik. And actually, when we do these things, it becomes so easy to perform as well. There's special mercy available during the month of Kartik. And you'll find that to do this at any other time will be more difficult. But to take on a little bit more in our spiritual practice. And you know what? Because they say that if you do something For 30 days, it becomes a habit. So let's say you don't read regularly, but you say, you know what, for the month of Kartik, I'm going to read 15 minutes every day, one verse and purport every day. I'm going to do that. Then you'll find that when you get to the end of Kartik, you want to keep that. And then the next Kartik will come around and you'll say, okay, now I'm going to read half an hour a day. So the idea is that these are special times which Krishna is offering us, that we can increase our connection, increase our spiritual practice. And Krishna is encouraging us by telling us, you know, you can multiply that by 1,000. This is Krishna's encouragement. Ekadasi is another one of those. Ekadasi is described as Bhakti Janani. It's the mother of devotion. So when we get an opportunity to perform these activities, we should accept it with open arms. Just try to be a little bit more spiritual. We shouldn't go over the top. You know, I'm chanting 16 rounds now, so I'm going to chant 32 rounds every day for Kartik, because it may be too much and may not be able to maintain it. But rather, we should take a baby step, something which is doable, something, it may seem relatively small, 15 minutes a day. You know, we never forget to eat and sleep. Have you noticed that? When we're going about our devotional practice, we never forget to eat and sleep. Have you noticed you've always got time to eat and sleep, no matter what happens? So why can't we find 15 minutes extra to read a verse and purport or chant 2 more rounds? No? Or do some service in the temple or serve some devotees. Just something little that we can maintain every day, a little bit like that. So this way, Krishna is offering us an opportunity to grow in our spiritual life. So we should accept that. No? So I just want to tell a few things about this. Since you all know the pastime very well, we can mention a few things which I hope will encourage us, you know, because in our devotional practice, 2 things are very important that we should try and do as much as we can. One is to chant the holy name of the Lord, and the other is to hear about Krishna's pastimes. This is why actually it is mentioned that we should sing this song by Satyavata Muni, this Damodar Astika, the 8 verses which are glorifying the Sri Damodar, this personality, Dhamma Udara, no, one whose belly is bound with a rope. Because when we hear Krishna's pastimes, actually our heart is purified. Gradually by hearing Krishna's pastime, the dirt of this material world is washed off. So this is a very special time, and this song is recommended. So I hope you're singing every day and offering a lamp to Sri Damodar. I hope you're doing that every day. So in this pastime, which is described in essence, you could say it's described in summary study in these 8 stanzas. No? There are some very interesting things which we can mention. I'm sure you all know the basic story, as Kartika was saying. So one thing I don't know if you know, but Krishna is, maybe we can, I like to interact actually, and I don't mind if devotees unmute themselves and give me an answer to this question. But Krishna as a small boy is very famous for some things. Can anyone unmute themselves and say, what is Krishna famous for?
Killing many demons.
Kill many demons, very good. There's more than one answer to this.
Eating makhan.
Aha, he's called Makhan Chor. Makhan Chor. What does Chor mean?
Thief.
Thief, yeah. Actually, Krishna owns everything, so how can he be a thief? But still, Krishna is stealing the butter. It's mentioned in the verse, no? Stealing the butter was kept hanging from a swing. No, that is Krishna's activity, stealing the butter. So the thing is that Krishna likes to go and steal from the neighboring gopis, isn't it? And actually, if he doesn't do that, the gopis feel upset. Why Krishna isn't coming and stealing? But sometimes, actually, the gopis get exasperated. They get frustrated that Krishna's always stealing the butter because they always make a plan. Actually, they put it in the rafters of the roof, but then Balaram comes to Krishna and he gets hold of the pillar, and Krishna climbs on his back and he gets into the roof, and then he passes down the pots of butter and yogurt. So this is the plan that they hatch. So the thing is that often the gopis come and complain to Mother Yashoda that this Krishna is stealing the butter. So one time this gopi, who didn't live very far from where Krishna was staying, she decided that she's fed up of this and she's actually going to catch Krishna in the act. So what she did, she hid. And then Krishna and Balaram, the other boys, came and they started to steal the butter. Like they got the down from the roasters, and they were sitting and they're eating the butter. Then this gopi came out from a hiding place, and all the boys except Krishna. And Krishna got caught by this gopi. So she decided, right, now I've caught you and I'm going to take you to Mother Yashoda. So what do you think Krishna did? When a child is caught doing something wrong, what do?
Deny that they did it.
Yeah, they deny, and also they turn on the waterworks, the crocodile tears, because they know that it'll soften the parent's heart if they turn on the tears. So Krishna turned on the tears and he said, oh, I'm really sorry, please don't take me into Mother Yashoda. I won't do it again, I promise. I promise I won't do it again. So this gopi told him, no, I'm going to make sure I'm going to take you to Mother Yashoda and I'm going to make sure that you get punished for your naughtiness. So in order that Krishna couldn't run away, she put Krishna on her shoulders. She lifted him up and she put him on her shoulders. And she began to walk to Nanda Maharaj's house. So eventually she got to Nanda Maharaj's house and she knocked on the door. So Mother Yashoda came out and this gopi began to complain to Mother Yashoda. Oh, one thing I missed out. While this gopi was walking towards Nanda Maharaj's house, Krishna kept telling this gopi, oh, please let me go, please let me go. I promise I won't do it again if you just let me go. Please let me go, like that. So this gopi was saying, no, I'm not having any of it. I'm taking you and you're going to get punished. So then when they got close to Nanda Maharaj's house, Krishna told this gopi, listen, if you don't let me go, you'll regret it. I promise you. You must let me go or I'll do something and you'll regret it. But this gopi wasn't listening to anything that Krishna was saying. So they went to Nanda Maharaj's house and she knocked on the door and Yashoda Mai came out. So this gopi was complaining to Yashoda Mai. Yeah, I finally caught Krishna, he was stealing the butter and I caught hold of him and now I brought him to you so that you can punish him. And Mother Yashoda began to laugh. And this gopi was like, why are you laughing? This is a very serious business. Why are you laughing? I brought Krishna to your door. He's been stealing the butter and I caught him and now you must punish him. So Yashoda Mai said, you just take that child down who's around, is sitting on your shoulders and you see who it is. So when she lifted that child off her shoulders and brought him down, what did she see? She saw it was her own son, actually. It was her own son. So then she was completely embarrassed and she didn't know what to say. So then she walked away from Yashoda Mai's door without saying anything. And Krishna told her, see, I told you you'd regret it. I told you. So this is the kind of thing that naughty Krishna gets up to. He pinches the children of the babies next door and they cry. And then he runs away. So this is naughty Krishna. So also, I don't know if you know, but because Krishna would steal the butter so much and the gopis would complain, then Mother Yashoda was thinking, I think I have to make some special milk products, some special yogurt and some special butter so that Krishna doesn't go on stealing. So she decided I don't know if you know, but Nanda Maharaj actually has 900,000 cows, 9 lakhs of cows. It's a lot of cows. But there's one group that among all those 900,000, there are 8 very special cows. They give milk, which is especially wonderful. And also, I don't know if you know this, but if you feed cows a certain kinds of things, you can taste what they've been eating in the milk. You can actually taste it. So she fed these 8 cows. She kept them one side and she personally fed them very soft grasses from Govardhan Hill. She personally fed and then also the milk that she personally milked those cows, and she took the milk and she wanted to make special sweets and also special yogurt with that milk from those special cows. So that milk that first of all, that milk was on the stove. Some of that milk that she got from those special cows is on the stove, and that's the milk that boiled over. And some of that milk, actually, she was churning, it turned to yogurt, and then that yogurt she was churning. So this is all the special preparation she was making. So that milk and that yogurt is not ordinary milk and yogurt. And this is why Mother Yashoda was so upset, because she was doing this so that she was thinking that Krishna must think that our yogurt and butter is very bad, because he keeps going. So maybe if I make special, she didn't let the maid do it. She wanted to do it herself. Special sweets, special yogurt, special butter. So this was a plan. So she didn't actually wind up in the situation where Krishna was stealing all the time. So this is some things. Also, I'm sure everyone knows that the rope which Mother Yashoda was using to bind was always 2 inches, two fingers short, like that. No? She would take the rope and she would bind like that and try to bind, and the rope was too short. So she'd get another rope and she'd tie the first rope to the second rope, and it would come to the front and it was still 2 feet. So it's explained by the acharyas actually that she went on doing this. She went on doing this all day, actually. All day she was struggling. All the rope that was in her house was used up. Now, Yashoda Mai is the wife of the king of Vraj, no? Vrajaraj. Vrajaraj is Nanda Maharaj. So how much rope, and he has 900,000 cows. So how much rope do you think there is in her house? It'll be a lot, no? But, you know, even though she used all the rope in her house, she didn't give up. The gopis are watching, actually. It's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Everyone was laughing because they couldn't quite understand that Mother Yashoda is bringing the rope to the front and it's 2 fingers short. And she put another rope and it's still 2 fingers short. But she was determined because Mother Yashoda felt, you know, this is my son, and if I don't correct him, who's going to do it? So she's very determined. I'm going to teach this boy a lesson. So when she ran out of rope, she sent the gopis. You go to your house and you bring your rope. So our acharyas explain that in this way she went through all the rope in Vrindavan. Every last piece of rope there is in the house of her own house, in all the gopis' houses. And then she was scratching her head, thinking what to do. So at that time it's explained that Radharani was standing and watching also. So at that time she noticed that Radharani had a ribbon in her hair. So she asked Radharani, can I have that ribbon? So then she took that ribbon and she tied it to all the ropes. And then using that ribbon of Radharani, Krishna agreed that he allowed himself to be bound with the ribbon that was used to tie Radharani's hair. So I don't know if you've heard some of these other things before about this transcendental pastime of the Damodar Astaka. But since you know the story, basically, I thought I'd mention a few things like that. So we have a few minutes left. The 4 things on the chat, which we can answer and see if many of them are questions. I knew Devesh would ask a question. He always does that. Every time I'm meeting Devesh, I always get questions. Actually, it's a very nice, thing because devotees are looking. The spiritual master especially is looking for those who are eager. It's one of the qualifications of a disciple, is to be very eager to learn. So it's a very nice quality, actually. So we have the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then we've got, I don't know what those things are. They look like, I'm not sure what they are. Does every soul, oh yes, pranams like this now. Does every soul fall into 2 categories, devotee or demon? Yes, that's what Krishna says, actually. In the 16th chapter, it says there are 2 classes of living entity in this world. But we should understand what Krishna means by demon. It's not because I come from Christian culture. Demon means some entity, you know, with horns on his head and he's carrying maybe a trident and has a forked tail like that. That is not what is meant in Vedic culture by a demon. A demon simply means someone who doesn't accept the supremacy, the ultimate position as the Supreme Personality Godhead of Lord Krishna. So you can see that living entities in this way fall into 2 categories. There are those who accept Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and those who don't. And there are some who are not sure. Actually, you could in some ways say that there are some who are not sure. But actually, devotee means one who accepts Krishna as the Supreme Lord. And one who's not sure is kind of a bit of a demon. Actually, we all have that demoniac nature to some extent. In Kali Yuga, the demon and the devotee are in the same body. In other ages, I mean, in Satya Yuga, it was different planets. In the Treta Yuga, it was different continents. In the Dwapara Yuga, it's different cities. And in the Kali Yuga, it's devotee and demon in the same body. But yes, basically, the living entities fall into these 2 categories. They're the devotee or demon, accept the Supreme Lord or don't.
Prabhuji, sorry, can I interrupt?
You can.
The question from the same question. So then we were all demons because we envied Krishna, and therefore we are here. We are not with him because we envied. So I guess we all are demons, and then we start the journey of being a devotee?
We start the journey of becoming devotees, yeah. And that occurs when we accrue some piety, as we were discussing yesterday, and Madhyama Adhikari comes along and touches your heart and your process starts. No? Yeah, that's true. That's true for most of us, actually. Also, if anyone has doubts or no faith in the scripture, then is that soul a demon? Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but that's what Krishna says in the 16th chapter. In the end of the 16th chapter, he says, what separates? He says there are two classes. Actually, we'll discuss this a little more because there's divisions of faith. We'll discuss that a little more. But basically, he says that. What separates one from being a demon or a devotee? And Krishna says very bluntly, he says, it's faith in the scripture. It's as simple as that. But the thing is, there are those who are on the middle ground. That's the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That is what's called the divisions of faith. Their faith is under the modes. It's either in goodness, passion, or in ignorance. So they may surrender, but they don't surrender to Krishna. They surrender to something else. This is the middle ground. Like, for instance, some people surrender to the demigods. That's discussed in 7th and 9th chapter. It says they're not very intelligent, actually, because the fruits of the demigods are limited and temporary. There are those who surrender to the universal form of the Lord. Generally, they're those who are not very advanced in intellectual thinking, but they have a respect for nature. There are those who surrender to the impersonal form of the Lord. They think, no, that actually Krishna is just some energy. This form that we see, this two-armed form, is actually an illusion. It's the supreme Brahman covered by the mode of goodness. This is what some people say. So there are those who are in the middle ground, because not everybody falls into demon or devotee exactly. Even as aspiring devotees, we have doubts. Our devotional service is not pure. So we fall into these categories of divisions of faith. We can execute devotional service in the mode of passion. We can execute devotional service in the mode of goodness. We can execute devotional service in the mode of ignorance. So it isn't that our devotional service is pure. It's mishra. It's mixed with something. It's either mixed with karma or jnana or yoga. So this is what happens. That somebody is not fully a demon, but they're not fully a devotee either. They're in the middle ground. They want to surrender, but to something else. So we should try to imbibe this transcendental knowledge so that we can increase our surrender to Krishna and gradually give up our demoniac mentality. What is the demoniac mentality? I want to enjoy separate from Krishna. That's the demoniac mentality. So in this way, I tried to give some understanding of that. I don't know if, okay? Devesh is not talking to me now. Devesh?
Oh, Hare Krishna. That's okay. Perfect. Thank you. All
right. Question 2. Is total unconditional surrender to serve the Lord the only way to salvation? Yeah, I'm sorry to say that. Good as I am. Krishna says at the 11th chapter, I can only understood as I am, standing before you in this two-armed form by devotional service. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. We have to, that is the only way out, because Krishna is the one who releases you. The demigods cannot release you. Even Lord Shiva cannot release you from this material world. Only Lord Krishna. He'll tell Durga, this one's a good devotee, you release them. And she will do that, because the shadow of the chit potency, she'll do that, she'll release you. There is no other way. We have to surrender to Krishna. Why do you think, well, after explaining everything in Bhagavad Gita, so many Vedic formularies, so many Vedic processes we've been studying in these 4 chapters, so many things are told by Krishna. And at the end, he just said, give it all up. Sarva Dharmam, all your dharmas, whatever it is. What do you think you are? You're a school teacher, you're a doctor, you're a road sweeper, you're a teacher. Krishna says, I don't care what you are, what you think you are. You just surrender to me, and I'll take away all your suffering. What a wonderful promise, no? And Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He can make a promise like that. But the thing is, surrender is a process. It takes time. Actually, I made some notes on this because I wanted to speak a little bit about it. Maybe I'll just say some things about surrender. Because my question is, can you surrender completely immediately? Is that possible? Devesh, what do you think? Can you completely give yourself 100% to Krishna like that? Is it possible? See, Kirtika shaking her head. What do you think, Devesh?
With His grace, everything's possible.
Yes, that's true. But for most of us, maybe it's going to happen to you. That'd be wonderful. But for most of
No, it
us,
does take time, I think.
I don't think so. Okay, surrender is a process. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written 50 songs about the process of surrender. It's called Sharanagati. You'll notice in the songbook that we sing some of the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it says from Sharanagati, such and such a song from Sharanagati. So Sharanagati is a process which has been given by Sanatana Goswami in the Haribhakta Vilas. It's also been explained by Srila Rupa Goswami to some extent, and it's also been explained very extensively by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So there's a process, and it has six limbs or 6 arms, you could 6 angas. So the first one is humility, dina, humility. That is the first. Because if we are not humble, how can we be instructed about spiritual life? We have to be humble. If we're not humble, then we think we know everything. So how can we be instructed? So this is the first thing. This is one of the limbs of surrender. We have to be humble. Then the next, that's called dina. This is how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing. Then there's Atmanivedan. Atmanivedan means to surrender to, giving oneself to Krishna, dedication of the self to Krishna. This is another of the limbs. Then there's Goptripte Varan, the acceptance of Krishna as the only maintainer. Right now we think our family members can save us or our boss can save us. We think so many people can save us, but actually only Krishna is the only object of dedication that can actually maintain us. And Krishna is maintaining us, no one else is doing it. Then there's Avasya Rakshive Krishna Vishwashpalan. Faith that Krishna will certainly protect me. Right now, we're not sure if Krishna will protect us, no? But this is another limb of surrender. Then there's Bhakti Anukul Matra Karye Svikar, which is executing only those acts which are favorable for pure devotional service. And the last one is Bhakti Pratikul Bhava Vajan Angikar, rejection of or conduct, giving up of conduct which is averse to devotional service. So these are the 6 angas, the 6 limbs of surrender. I've just given a very brief description, but at least we can try these last 2 and the first one. We can work on those to try and kick out of our lives practices which are not conducive to devotional service. Things like collecting more funds or overeating, to over-endeavor for results which are difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matter. These kinds of things, we can try and avoid them. The things which Rupa Goswami is saying, they're not favorable. They destroy one's devotional service. And to accept the things which are good for devotional service, being enthusiastic, having patience, having determination, following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Not accepting the rules and regulations just for the sake of it, but actually accepting them for advancement in devotional service. So these are some of the elements, some of the things. I've just touched on it briefly, but it's a very deep subject matter, actually. The process of surrender, so that we can learn to gradually give ourselves more and more to Krishna. So anyway, I've just touched on it a little bit. So total unconditional surrender can't really happen overnight for most of us. We actually have to work on that process. And I've given a few things here. Devesh, is that all right?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, that's perfect. I just wanted to ask you then, do you sometimes feel when you're on that path that Krishna is actually testing you, whether you're passing the exam or not?
Yeah, Krishna will test us. I promise you, Krishna will test you, because we're the ones, after all, who came to this material world. We said, I want to know what's going on down there. And Krishna said, what do you want to do that for? And we said, no, I want to know. So Krishna needs some convincing, actually, that we're serious. He needs some convincing. So you could say in that way that Krishna will test us. Are you really sincere? What do you want? Do you want Maya? What do you want? Would you like a new TV set? How about a TV set for every room? How about a new BMW? Would you like a planet or a universe? What do you want? Or do you want me? So Krishna will test, actually. That is part of our growth process. And as you grow, the tests will become more difficult. Because the tests are like Durga Devi is like a karate instructor. She will go after your weak points like that. And as you become stronger, you know how to defend yourself. You turn away from sense gratification. You engage in the things you're supposed to do. You avoid the things you're not supposed to do. So Krishna will test us. It's part, they become, for a good devotee, they become stepping stones on the path back to Godhead when we get tested. When we get tested, we become stronger. And if you fail the test, Krishna will wait a little bit and then he'll give you the same test again. Because Krishna wants you to grow, come back to him. Actually, don't want you to sojourn in this terrible material world. So yes, we will get tested. You can expect it. It will come. But they can become, in the hearts and minds of devotees, they become stepping stones. And if we fail, it doesn't matter, but we should pick ourselves up and we should keep going. Prabhupada told that once. One of his sannyas disciples fell down. And Prabhupada told him, doesn't matter. You just get married and you come and you serve in this movement. It doesn't matter if we fall down. Krishna does not see how many times you fall down. Krishna sees how many times you get up and you carry on. That's what Krishna sees. So even if we fail the test, we shouldn't give up. We should analyze what happens, get help from senior devotees, try harder in our spiritual practices and face that test. And it becomes a stepping stone then. Anyway, these are some things that occur to me when I hear this question. Is that all right, Devesh?
Yes, Prabhuji, but just another question, just based on that. So the more you become devotional, the more life becomes difficult in terms of testing or harder? I mean,
not difficult, because as we grow, it may seem externally that the person's getting tested more, but to the person who's being tested, they can overcome those things because of their level of spiritual advancement. It may seem very difficult to us if we watch someone go through that, but because they have, there's a popular saying among devotees, this is there in the West, I don't know if it's among others as well, but we say if Krishna brings you to it, Krishna will bring you through it. I don't know if you've heard that, but Krishna will not test that you can't overcome on a good day. We may have a bad day and we may not overcome that test, but if we're in good consciousness and we take shelter of Krishna and the devotees, then we will be able to overcome that test. But if we're weak, if we are slack in our spiritual practice, if we don't think too hard, if we take the easy way out, we may fail the test. But if we're in good consciousness and we're connected to Krishna and the devotees nicely, we will be able to overcome that test. So if Krishna is not going to bring you through it, he won't bring you to it. Is that all right? Devesh?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Okay. Are we all done then? So I see there are no more questions in the chat, and I've gone over by 2 minutes.
It's okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your association. I hope, and we all hope, that you can join us again next Sunday and Monday. I think Mansi Ganga Mataji will communicate to you.
Okay.
I'll hand
Thank
over.
you for inviting me.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for coming to our group. We really, really appreciate it. I hand over to Path Prabhuji. Path Prabhuji, can you please end the session?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. There is a word is very less to Hare Krishna Shyamamand Krishna Prabhuji. It's very wonderful lecture and wonderful realization. Also, the wonderful answer of the questions of our devotees. So the same thing I also request, please, you have time, please give you once or twice in a day, a week or in 15 days. So it is helpful for us. For grace, for glorification of His grace, Shyamamand Krishna Prabhu, I request everyone, please unmute yourself and chanting Hare Krishna mantra once. All the same time, also thankful to all the devotees from Nairobi, from Kisumu, and other places also. They are joining in this group. Also, with thanks to all. Hare Krishna. Please chant Hare Krishna mantra once. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Jai.
Jai. Ancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. His Grace Shyamamand Prabhu ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Dhamma Veda Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare